Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to share an awesome conversation with you. I recently sat down with my good friend John Felkins, who is the executive coach of our Entreleadership coaching program. And I gotta tell you, John is a really, really smart guy. He's a good friend of mine, and we actually go way back through the Entreleadership coaching program when I used to coach with them. I'm so excited for you to get to hear his insights about wrapping up the year strong in your business. Check this out. Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to hang out with one of my very good friends, John Felkins, who is an Entreleadership Executive Coach. John, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
So we pass each other every day,
yes,
and we have been working together since back in the day, way before even Business Boutique was a thought in anyone's mind. So this is really a joy for me to have you here to share your knowledge and experience.
It's taken a long time for you to invite me, to be honest with you.
I blame the guy behind the glass. He can't talk. He's not on camera. I'm just going to blame Chris.
He can't defend himself.
No, that's how I roll. He really appreciates it.
Well, let me just say, what you're doing with Business Boutique is awesome.
Thank you.
You have built a phenomenal service to everybody that you help, and it's been really inspirational to watch you do that.
Well, thank you. And I know you work with business leaders every day through our Entreleadership coaching program, and you've done this for a long time, but I'd love to kind of give the listeners a little bit of your backstory, how you got into coaching to begin with. And I honestly don't even know the story, John, of really what you did before you started working here, because we've worked together through Entre, but I don't know a lot of your kind of background. So let's kind of start there. I'd love to hear it.
So I was born on a farm.
Let's start at the very beginning.
No, actually, really, I started my professional life as an engineer. But not a sit at a computer engineer, more a project management engineer. So dealing with people, getting stuff done. And then I got invited to be on a leadership team at my church. And they brought in this management consultant, this coach, and he had his own personality assessment that he had developed with the psychologist, and I took it. And he asked me, he's like, John, what do you do? And I said, I'm an engineer. And he looked at my results and he said, no, you're not. And so I'm like, man, I took a lot of calculus classes to hear that, and I didn't pass them all the first time either.
Identity crisis moment. You're like, what am I doing?
Exactly. And so after arguing with him for about 3 days, I finally realized, and he said to me, listen, I'm telling you, you've done all of this that you've done in spite of how you're wired as a person, not because of how you're wired as a person. And I quit arguing with him, and the clouds parted, and the sun came down, and I was like, man, this is, I can tell why it feels like I've been beating my head against the wall with my, with my day job. And honestly, I just said, man, I would like to help people like how you just helped me. And so I dove headlong into the coaching world and consulting, and I started my own practice doing that. And then I came to Entreleadership, the event, like I think maybe the third one we ever did.
The week long or the one day?
It was the week long. It was the sit down, shut up. We're going to teach you all day long.
All the things.
Yeah, all the things version. And that just rang like a bell for me. And I started applying all of those principles in my own practice and then with my clients.
Did you have a team or was it just you?
It was me.
Okay, gotcha.
It was me. I did outsource stuff with other people because I couldn't do it all myself. But I didn't put people on payroll. And I became friends with Daniel Tardy, who had sold me my ticket to Entreleadership Master's Series. And then we just continued this conversation, and just over 6 years ago, I joined this team and helped launch the coaching program.
I love it. It's so cool. What was that moment like for you, where you realized the clouds parted, where you realized I'm not doing what I was supposed to do? And the reason I'm so curious about this experience for you is because I don't know if you remember the role that I was in before, because I had a very similar experience. Do you know the activity? Let's do a quick rabbit trail here.
Sure.
You know the activity we do as a company? It's strategic planning.
Yes.
And you take this test and you come up with a number. It's a number 1 through 10.
Yes.
And you take, so to explain to you guys, they ask all these different questions around the job that you do. So for your job, how would you rate it on this scale? And you come up with a number that is between 1 and 10. Well, then they ask you a series of questions about you.
Yeah, about your thinking wavelength.
Right.
Right? Where
you as a person, how you're wired. And so you answer all those questions. So then what we do is we would all walk to the front of the room, and we would plot these numbers on a graph. So they'd draw a line, 1 to 10, all the numbers. And typically, when the first round is you go plot your job. So everyone goes and plots their job. You've got people that are 10s, people that are 1s, and everyone in between. It's just the nature of the work that you do.
Yep.
And then they say, okay, now go plot you,
Right.
you know? And so then everyone would be plotting a little dot very close to whatever their job was, okay? So I'm a project manager, product developer, highly detail-oriented job, deadline-driven, spreadsheets for days. And I go plot a little 2 for my job, right? Because that's what it was. It's that type of thinking, detail-oriented, you know, whatever, organizational tasks. And they say, okay, go plot your number for you. And I'm like, a 10?
Yeah.
And the whole concept is you should not be more than 1 space away from your job or you feel strained. You're working outside your strengths.
Yes.
You realize the way you described it, you're beating your head against the wall.
Yes.
Where I'm sending products to China that have misspellings, John, because I don't pay attention to stinking details. But vision, I got vision for days.
Yeah.
So I've had a similar experience where you're going, I know I'm good at something, but it isn't this.
Yep.
So take me back there. What was that like where you realized I've taken all this, like these classes and my education and all this to lead up to this thing I thought I was supposed to be, and I'm supposed to be something different, and I haven't been doing any work in that area.
Yeah. You know, it was really like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And even more than that, even more than the moment, Christy, to be honest with you, because I felt that in the moment, but even more than the moment for me, it redefined what work was for me.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
I mean that before, it was drudgery. I was working against myself internally. And when I made the transition and I started doing something that actually aligned with my gifting, it felt more like a creative expression of who I was. I felt like I was in my sweet spot. And I'm not saying that there weren't a lot of days that weren't difficult or long or on the road or, you know, dealing with people that were trying or whatever, but it just never felt the same again. I never was looking at like, what time is it and when can I go home? It just changed to, man, I've got so much to do. I need to quit for, you know, sometimes I even joke now, I'll get to the end of my day and I'll just kind of yell out, I'm like, that's it, I quit. And then I'm like, see you in the morning. Because I just mean, I look at it from the perspective of all that needs to be done. And I'm working to get all of that work done. And at the end of the day, I got to quit and go home, which I'm excited about, but I'm not watching the clock anymore. It's not just wishing my life away and watching the killing time. You know, it isn't that. And that's what was the biggest change. I didn't feel it in the moment, you know, but it was over time. It was over time. I realized, man, this is what work is meant to be.
Yeah, it's crazy how you'll start to see the ripple effect when you make a change in your life. You start to see a ripple effect in ways you didn't even know. When I know this is a crazy example, but when I worked for the YMCA nonprofit, I worked like 80 hours a week. It was insane. I had no life, and every time my phone would ring, genuinely my heart would start racing because something had gone wrong at the pool. And it was like it's like Pavlov's dog. Like it trained me to like the phone is like, you know, source of stress. And so after I started working here at our office where we have normal hours, 8 to 5, like we don't really bother each other usually on the evenings and weekends.
Not about work.
Totally. And so after the first month of working here, I called my cell phone bill to check on my bill and like see, like I was like, it seems like my plan is off. Is something wrong? And they're like, well, you only used, like this was back when we tracked minutes. You only used 300 minutes this month. And I had like an unlimited plan because they would just call me all the time. It's like, oh, you start to see this ripple effect. I'm less stressed. I'm not grinding my teeth at night. My heart rate is down. Like all these things when you make a positive change. And I'd be willing to bet that what you're talking about, this idea of you just equated that with work. I bet a lot of people think that, John. And I know I want to. Like 7 out of 10 Americans don't like their job, and they just assume, well, that's just work, right? Because they've never experienced what you and I have experienced of being in your sweet spot and that type of thing. I love hearing that background, and I love hearing that story. And now you really have such a heart for helping business owners and all different types of business owners through the Entreleadership program. Tell us a little bit about, you talk about, you know, now working in your sweet spot. What's your average day like, and what are some of the types of businesses that you get to work with and help every day?
Yeah, so I'll start with what's my average day like. You know, we have a lot of meetings. We meet at this company, right? So I do have meetings throughout the day with the marketing team, figuring out how we can get the word out and those kind of things. But then a good part of my day will be on sessions with clients. And they're a business leader all across the country, running all kinds of different companies, and I'm on there with them, and we're having a conversation really about two things. One is the application of Entreleadership, which is Dave's way of running their business, and then also their effectiveness as a leader. And I use an assessment and do kind of the normal coaching things, but I'm helping them get better as a leader, and then I'm helping them make progress in their business. And those are kind of the two fronts that we work on. As far as the kind of businesses I work with, that's actually probably one of my favorite parts of my job is that I work with all kinds of businesses. One of my favorite examples is we have client friends. I've known them for a long, long time, and they own a business called showpig.com.
Okay, and, I'm so intrigued.
Showpig.com is a website that they own. It's kind of like a mashup between Amazon and eBay for show pigs. So
I don't even understand what a show pig is, John. What is a show pig?
Come on, you've had enough farm life. You should know this.
I mean, these are like prize pigs.
These are prize pigs. If you want to, you want your kid or your grandkid to have a pig in the county fair, and you want them to get a blue ribbon, you can go on showpig.com and get them a good pig.
It's the beauty pageant for pigs?
It's the beauty pageant for pigs. And they're doing tens of millions of dollars of revenue every year on showpig.com.
So, if you're worried that your business is too niche, can we time out? There is a website making multiple millions of dollars for show pigs.
That's right.
Okay, carry on. Thank you.
You're welcome. All the way to construction companies, manufacturing companies, people that are running multinational, all over the place. So it's just, I love the novelty of getting to work with people all over the place, and really the most inspiring part of that to me about the whole thing is, Christy, is that there's so many things that we can do, right? Whatever your idea is, you can serve people with that idea and be very successful with it. And all that diversity just every day, anew reminds me of that.
Yeah, it's so funny that you talk about the diversity of the businesses that you get to work with. What you're teaching to are the principles. You're teaching to the specific principles of being a great leader, leading a team, growing your profits, running a business. And that applies in most cases to any type of business, any size of business. We did our big launch for the Business Boutique Academy, and we opened enrollment for just a few days back in September. And the number one question we were asked, and we didn't see this coming, so we wrote our marketing copy of what we thought was going to connect, and we adjusted it halfway through the week, because the number one question we were asked was, is this for my type of business?
Right.
Oh, but I'm a fitness trainer. Is this for my type of business? But I'm a dentist. Is this for my, but I'm an architect. Is it? Yes. You're in business. We help businesses. And so I love that example, because you're proof through the Entreleadership division that we teach the principles of Entreleadership and how to grow your business regardless of the type of business. Now, one of the things that I know that you work with business leaders on and our ladies are dealing with right now, like in the trenches, is closing the year.
Okay.
And to be honest, they don't know what they don't know. So they don't even know what to ask or look for or plan on. And I spent some time earlier in the show today teaching them about what we do with right, wrong, missing, confused. And you and I talked about this. This is where you helped me work through this before we even crafted the teaching of even in your sales, your marketing, your money, your operations, your team. So let's talk a little bit about, on a practical level, what are the main things we need to look for before we wrap up 2018 and going into 2019? What are some maybe red flags we need to identify, or maybe even just some metrics we need to assess before we set goals for 2019? So let's kind of talk about, what do we not know? We can start high level and then we can get in the weeds with it.
Sure. Just as a very, very quick aside, I actually did this with a client last week. I went to their offices and sat down with them, and I started walking them through this process, and he stopped me about halfway through. And he's like, wait a second. I said, what? He said, you're just making me do critical thinking.
Yes, and that's what we do as coaches.
Yes, you're right. That's all we're doing right now.
We ask good questions.
Yeah, just ask good questions. And that's what you're right, Christy. That's what it is. Like, we get going, and knowing the right questions to ask can be tough because we're in the middle of it.
Yep.
You know, it's like I say sometimes, like, fish don't know they're in water. Like, because they're in there and
That's
they're
right.
so into it, they don't even see it, right? But when we step back and we look at it from the outside, like, we can see all this stuff.
Right.
And so it is helpful to try and detach,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe even get out of wherever you normally work, your office or,
Yeah.
you know, away from
Go
your desk
off-site.
or what, go off-site and start asking yourself some questions like you mentioned. So in a very practical way, I would start looking at, honestly, kind of use a diagnostic approach of, okay, what hurts the most,
Okay.
right? What do I feel like was the biggest challenge for me this year, and start to dive into on that. Now, that could be a lot of different things. It could be your sales, right? If you're selling a widget of some sort, whatever that is, you need to look at it from, you know, how many did you sell and the revenue that generated, and start asking yourself the questions like, okay, how can I make these numbers better? You know, can I sell more of them? Can I charge more? How much traffic did it take to sell the ones that I did?
Right.
And really, the way that I see it in my mind's eye is look at it like a trail. Like, if you've got $1 in the bank, trace that dollar all the way back out away from your business and figure out where it came from.
How it got there.
How it got there, right? Like, somebody had to buy a thing, okay? And how much did they pay for that thing? And where did they buy that thing? And how did they check out? You know, like, when I say how did they buy that thing, I mean, like, down to the number of clicks on the
Yep,
website,
yep.
or did they talk to you on the phone, or
Yep.
whatever. Like, follow that value chain, I would call it, all the way back out to that money in their bank account.
Yeah, yeah.
And look at that whole thing, and look at it like a hose. I know this is funny, but if you have a garden hose,
Okay.
and we all know that if we pinch that hose, not as much water comes out, right?
yep.
And so just assume you got a kink in the hose someplace,
Okay.
and go looking for it.
Okay, I like
because
that.
you can get more throughput. You can get, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you can get more of the dollars that were in their bank account
Yeah,
into your bank
that's right.
account, right? By making that hose bigger, getting the kink out of that hose,
Yep.
turning the faucet up one way or the other. And so all of those real specific questions,
Yeah.
like your conversion rates,
Yep.
the amount of leads that you got. Think about when you launch the academy. It's all the things that you're
Right.
paying attention to,
Right.
right? So I look at that from a marketing perspective. And I should say marketing and sales, right?
Right.
Because at some point, it stops being about marketing, it starts being about sales.
Right.
And how many people came to the cart? And I don't know, I should ask you, how many of the folks that you're working with are delivering what they're doing online? Is it a lot or is it a little?
I would say a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, a
Okay,
lot.
so if that's the case, or in light of that, then I'm looking at the performance of all of that. How many people hit the shopping cart? How many people abandoned the shopping cart and didn't actually give me? Oh, and by the way, do I actually know that?
Right. And by the way, if they put something in the shopping cart and they leave, you're going to be shocked by that, but that is actually really normal. Like
is really
the
normal.
shopping cart abandonment rate, I
Right.
think, is in the 60 to 70%
Yeah,
range.
yes.
It's huge. And you'd think, you put it in your cart. What do you mean you don't want it? My
Right.
feelings are so hurt. So you need to start to understand these numbers. And I love that you're using all these specific examples because it helps them think through, okay, these are all the places to look for kinks. These are all
Right.
the places to look for where there might be a problem or a challenge that we could fix to
Yeah.
help get that
Absolutely.
straightened out
Like,
for next year.
The fancy word for that is it's a constraint.
Yeah.
Right? It's a constraint in the system, and you got to hunt those up. So I would look at all of those things. And my point about knowing those numbers is, if we're not at the point yet where we've got some analytics in place, that would be something that I would really look to do. Make sure you can track all of that stuff. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You know, if we're selling stuff analog over the phone, just start asking a question. Hey, how'd you hear about me?
Yeah.
You know, where did you see my product, or
Yeah.
how did you hear about our service? good old yellow pad and just start writing it down and keeping track so that you know where they heard about you and how they got from not knowing about you all the way to buying your service. So that's one whole stream or one whole kind of domain to investigate. The other thing is when it comes to fulfillment, whether it's the fulfillment of your service or the fulfillment of the product itself, like how much is that costing you? You know, if I'm working with somebody that's like, let's say, running a fitness gym, then they're looking at, okay, we're doing fulfillment by running these classes, gymnastics classes for kids, right? Well, we've got to look at how much does that cost us? How much is rent on the building? How much is, you know, the instructor cost me? And maybe a lot of folks in Business Boutique aren't doing it that way, but it costs them something to deliver whatever it is they're doing. I know this. Because like you said, it's business, so they have to. So then I'm looking at all my costs. I'm looking at all of the costs and I'm saying, where could I turn some of these dials? You know, what do the raw goods cost me? What's the labor cost me? What do I cost me? Because am I paying myself? You know, I want to look at that and look at all of those costs and see what dials I can turn there. You know, as I say that to you, I would say if you had to look at one document to be a starting point for this mental exercise is look at what we would call our P&L, the profit and the loss, right? The income and the cost, and just go through that baby line by line and say, what could I do about that? How could I either make that more or how could I make that less? And even if you don't know what questions to ask, just by going line by line through your finances will start to lead to other questions. You know, and I will say, asking better questions is a really good thing. I know that kind of sounds silly, but the more you do this, the better the questions that you will ask. It's like budgeting. It's like what we teach as budgeting as a company. Just start. Just go through all of that. Look at it. You'll get better as you go. And you're going to get better. You're not going to be perfect. But if you do it month after month, you go line by line, you're going to look at where's this money coming from and where's it going out. And you can say, well, wait a second. If we're paying that much for that, if I'm paying, you know, I'm thinking of your mom. If I'm paying that much for flour, why am I paying that much for flour? And where are the expenses going? Oh, wait a minute, I'm paying a bunch, you know, for delivery charges or whatever it is. So I'm just going line by line and looking at where the money is coming in and going out and starting to ask questions. And the thing is, if you don't know what to ask, the money is going to tell you so much. And so that's why I would start there.
Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you need help sticking with your goals in 2019, you don't want to miss my 2019 Business Boutique Goal Planner. Y'all, this thing is going to help you make 2019 your best year yet. It's got content that you can focus on every single month, and you have a calendar and a goal-setting tool and template and to-do list. Be sure to get your copy by going to businessboutique.com or by clicking the link below.